Hi, I'm Laura Hicks, and welcome to the ScaleUp Biz Summit for Success. The virtual summit is sponsored by ScaleUp Biz, whose world-class experts are dedicated to helping business leaders grow their companies while honoring people in the workplace. So that's why we're bringing together top business authors to talk about their work in this summit series so that you can learn firsthand their tips and tricks of the trade. So now it's my honor to introduce Mike Sarraille, who is the book author of The Talent War. And we get to learn more about him today. So welcome, Mike.
Laura, thank you for having me.
So just so our audience gets a little bit of flavor for who you are, because there's a lot to tell about you. What would you be able to share something about yourself that the readers might not know, or somebody attending the summit might not know about you yet?
I revealed a little bit of information about myself when I entered the MBA program I attended, University of Texas at the age of 39. They said, "Hey, we know you're a Navy SEAL. Tell us something that nobody knows." And it was that I read all the Harry Potter novels while on combat deployments as a way to break away from reading intelligence reports and being in gunfights. So I don't know what it was. Once I read the first one, it stuck, and the guys around me used to give me a lot of crap for reading those novels as if I was a young kid.
Well, I can appreciate that they are a good escape. And yes, at the time I had kids, and that started me off on my first of those. And I continued the series as well. So I found them very, very intriguing too. And a great little escape.
Yes.
I didn't have quite the same need to escape that you did, though. So on a different note about books, what books have you read more than once in your life?
More than once. There's a book called Once an Eagle, and it was given to me by actually one of the individuals who helped pen the book, Team of Teams by General Stanley McChrystal. His name is Chris Fussell. He also wrote the book, One Mission. And Once an Eagle is a novel about two military leaders, one the protagonist, one the antagonist. The protagonist is the consummate leader who leads through love, compassion, and accountability for his people, and the other is a political creature that will step on others to climb the rank system in the military. And they both end up being generals, and they go toe to toe. And it's a wonderful novel about what good and bad leadership looks like.
Well, that would be excellent from that type of an example. And how do switch gears just a little? How do you take care of your mental health? So we know reading as an escape was one thing, but how do you take care of your mental health?
This is a key question for everyone. Everyone's concerned about mental health, especially given what we went through in COVID and being forced into isolation. I actually call it mental fitness. Much like you engage in physical fitness to increase your health, mental fitness, one of the key components I utilize is reflection. The highest performers in any industry I've ever met, Bill Campbell, the $1 trillion coach, was a mentor to me. I grew up in the Bay Area, knew him when I was young, and then reconnected with him when I was a SEAL leader. And even in the SEAL teams, they were all highly reflective. And they constantly were journaling, either morning or at the end of the day, what they learned, what their goals were. But mental health issues within the military were at an all-time high because of the impacts of war. I call them the normal reactions to the abnormal conditions of war. You really have to have the courage to raise your hand and say, "Hey, something's off here and I need to talk to somebody." And then actually take the initiative to go seek out help rather than compartmentalizing it, internalizing it. You can do that for a while, and some can do it longer than others, but eventually that pot will boil over. And I even dealt with that in my life after my 10th combat deployment. I was very much mentally unbalanced, and I had to seek out some professionals to become rebalanced, to become mentally fit. So, the most courageous thing you can do is raise your hand and actually say, "Hey, I don't feel right." and then seek that help.
So I want to acknowledge you for two reasons. One is thank you for your service. And the second is for your authenticity and being real about the challenges that are people that go off and go into military service for the rest of us, what it is that they face and the challenges, and that it shouldn't be a well-kept secret. It really shouldn't. And I appreciate your encouraging someone who needs to find help, seeking help, because the circumstances you're subjected to certainly aren't normal.
And Laura, and I know we're talking about leadership here. Your job as a leader, whether you're a startup CEO and founder, or leader of an established small to mid-sized company, it's your job to also check in on people, not only about what their tasks are, what they need to accomplish, milestones and deadlines, but just checking in with them outside of work, saying, "How are you doing?" Especially in COVID, if you're in a remote environment, hey, I don't want to talk about work. I just want to talk about you. What's going on with your kids? How are you doing? Or if people are not married and they're stuck in an apartment, just having a conversation to check in, a mental wellness check-in to see how they're doing, and if necessary, take action to assist them.
Yeah. And that fits with what we try to teach companies, is honoring the whole person. So as you recognize, there's a whole person that shows up to work, not just the person who's really good at the function that you hired them for, but there's a whole person in there, and there's a lot more to them than just the tasks that they do for the company.
And we actually wrote about the whole person concept in the book, The Talent War, which comes from Greek philosophy. Technically, it's a fit mind and a fit body. But really how we see it is, the Venn diagram of three concentric circles. One, you do have your physical health, your mental health as well, and then your spiritual health is that third concentric circle. And we're trying to constantly balance those three things to remain in balance as human beings. Because if one gets wildly out of balance, it's like a car, you got to put it back into the shop.
Well, and that brings into one of the other things I was going to ask you about, is how do you manage stress? So we talked about, how you prevent, burnout and things of that nature, but how do you handle stress? So in those, well, elaborate a little for us.
I think my immediate answer to that is not well. We all have different stress levels. Again, from what I observed in the military, somebody can go on one combat deployment and they just didn't deal with that pressure well. And I've seen other people that went on 15 consecutive combat deployments, and it wasn't until the 15th that things started to become really unhinged. But the best way to deal with stress is to have a positive mindset and to embrace the journey. I have a saying, today's going to be hard, and that's what I'm here for. And if you have a positive mindset, that whatever obstacle you face on a day-to-day basis, you're going to get through it. Now, take it I write for Men's Journal something called the Everyday Warrior column, and it's just taking life one step at a time, one day at a time. And even if you have grandiose goals to build a startup into a multi-million-dollar company, take it one day at a time. Yes, you have a grand strategy, a 2 to 5 year strategy, but if you can focus on taking that one day at a time, I guarantee you will get close to achieving that 5 year strategy. But you also have to make time to break away, and that is so hard for entrepreneurs. Somebody once told me you can choose three things as an entrepreneur, and you've already chosen the one, the company. That's what you're focused on, and then you could choose either family or health, but nothing beyond that. And having started several companies, I've become reclusive when I'm so focused on starting these companies. I ignore my friendships. And I've learned, and as I'm standing up another company right now, is there's got to be a point where I say, hey, it is 6 o'clock. I am breaking away. I'm going to go spend time with my wife and my family, or I'm going to go meet a friend out in town for a simple walk. I live in Austin, around Lake Austin, a 30-minute loop where we're out in nature, we're breathing, and we're getting a little bit of exercise in it. Right now, my 30-minute walk at the end of the day, usually with my dog, is a process I go through to de-stress. I focus on my breathing. And then I also do HIIT yoga. I'm new to yoga because I just had a hip replacement. One, God bless these ladies in the class with me because it's 109 in the room. I'm sweating pools. They look like they're unfazed. I'm afraid to tell them I'm a Navy SEAL because they'll think we're all wimps because I have to step out of the class every once in a while. But yoga has been one of the best stress mechanisms. And I'm about 3 months deep, and I try to hit it every morning. So you've got to find, and it's different for everyone. For some people it's the mountains, some people it's the water. You've got to find what works for you, but you have to have the discipline to put your work down, step away for your spiritual and your mental health.
I 100% agree with that. And I usually try to do 2 walks a day. One's at 5:30 in the morning. My first 3 miles are in. And then the other one's usually by the water because we don't live far from the ocean. So I totally understand the reconnect with nature, the being able to shift from where you were to the something next, right? Personal, family time, whatever that is, decompression. So that's great. I love hearing about yoga and your new intro into yogurt. That's yoga. that's super.
I can only hit about one of the 29 positions that we go through every morning. So give me time.
That flexibility will come. Because you have all that flexibility everywhere else, right? So when did you know you wanted to become an entrepreneur? Because you just talked about starting yet another business. When did you know?
So, I chose to serve an entire career in the military, 20 years. I loved what I did, and mainly because I was surrounded by some of the most amazing men and women I've ever met. And I will brag about them to the day I die. And quite frankly, sometimes I didn't feel like I deserved to be around people of those caliber. But what we did within the SEAL teams is entrepreneurial in nature. You could say entrepreneurial since we belong to an organization, but we were given a lot of problems for which no book solution existed. And we had to be innovative, adaptive, agile to identify solutions to some of the president's most asymmetric national security affairs. And so when I left the military and had to restart, which was humbling, I attended, like I said, the Texas MBA program at the age of 39. I was the old man on campus. And, you don't know what you don't know. And I'd met a lot of, growing up in the Bay Area, a lot of venture capitalists, a lot of investment bankers. And even through my SEAL career, when I went to events, it seemed that I met people in venture capital, private equity, and investment banking. So when I stepped into the program, they asked me, what did I want to do? I'm like, oh, I've got this: venture capital, private equity, or investment banking. And after my first semester, I'm like, I'm not playing to my strengths. I like going through these pro formas and doing discounted cash flow. This is not my passion. And so I actually had to take a step back and define success for me, look in the mirror and say, what do I truly love doing? I love coming up with solutions for problems that continue to exist or persist. And so somebody's like, then you're an entrepreneur. And started to study entrepreneurism, but still didn't have a idea. But eventually that came as I explored my passions, and that's what really ignited me into entrepreneurism.
Nice. So, what were some mistakes that you wish you could have avoided?
Coming out of an MBA program, you think you have things figured out. Like I say, looking back, I like to say I was dangerous enough to sink a business, especially a new startup. I made a lot of mistakes based off not arrogance, but thinking I knew the answer, and really thinking people would love my idea. And my ideas, let's be honest, were emotionally attached to our ideas, and not testing the market on certain things just through simple conversations to see what the appetite was. And so sometimes with some of my startups, I went the hard way about it, trying to force something on customers rather than identifying the customer pain point and then designing something around that. So that was probably my largest mistake. I'm going to tell people right now, the only way we learn is through failure.
Yep.
Even in the military, training SEALs, training Green Berets, is we set them up to fail in training. We do it by design because we know that's how some of life's best lessons stick. And with entrepreneurs, entrepreneurship, I keep saying entrepreneurism, not a word. With entrepreneurship, failure is very much part of the process. In fact, it's 90% of the process. You're going to do things that the outcomes don't end up in your favor. That's fine. As long as you learn from that, you reset and you iterate. And a lot of people just, they don't embrace failure. I actually, when people view risk, a lot of people view it negatively. I actually see the upside of risk. Without risk, no reward. So you've got to get out there and test a little, learn a lot, and then continually iterate until your idea hits. And it's going to cost money. It's going to cost time. But I'm going to tell you that money and that time that you spend on those failures results in knowledge, and it makes you stronger in the end.
And so you rolled into some of the things that I would have asked about advice. I appreciate you adding that. And yes, testing is key to understanding who you're serving in the market and if the market idea will survive as well. So that's great. And not to feel failure. That failure is part of the learning process. And it was a smarter person than me that said, if you already know everything, then you can't learn anything else. So that's another part of being able to fail to learn. So where did your idea for your business come from?
So, I felt like I was leaving behind my brothers and sisters. Some of them continued to deploy to combat. Well, the war had really sort of ended by the time I got out. But then, Iraq and Syria kicked back up with ISIS. And some of my friends were fighting hard. And I felt it just didn't feel genuine or right to go get a position out in the business sector without blazing a path for my brothers and sisters in arms. So I started Talent War Group, based off the name of the book. It existed before the book, where I specifically, and I got this wrong. Initially, I went after Fortune 500s, but I learned very quickly that was the wrong market. And we focus on small to mid-size businesses. That's our sweet spot. That's our beachhead, as you could say. And a lot of these small to mid-sized business owners, usually these companies are privately held, are looking for great leaders. Well, guess what? I know where some great leaders are. They may not have industry experience, but skills can be taught.
Yes.
Leadership cannot. It can, but let me tell you, it takes years and years. And I used to get into heated conversations with MBA instructors who said, we produce leaders. And my answer was, I don't. You produce business practitioners, and you produce damn good business practitioners. But no part of the MBA program was really focused on leadership. And I am biased, but I will debate this with anyone, is the military is the world's greatest leadership development program. I mean, you look at historic leadership development programs in the business sector, a lot of them were modeled off of how the military runs leadership development. And that's what the military is about. Yeah, they're trained in the art of war, but they're about producing leaders. From GE to PepsiCo to J&J, all their sort of general management programs are based off the military leadership development paradigm. Trust me, there were some rough years there, but we finally sort of overcome the hurdle, and we needed some successes. And once we placed some very high performing military leaders, and we have a very high bar for the military leaders that we take in as candidates, we've placed them into companies, and the feedback has just been like, people are like, you can't replace mindset. And they came in with a positive mindset. They're the consummate team players. They're positive. They're developing the people below them, and they're picking up the industry side. It's been a wonderful marriage of a company needing leadership and placing leaders in it, and it worked out in our favor. I'm not going to sit here and say I've got anything figured out. It's just, I've also had my first startup failed, and that hurt. That hurt my ego. It also hurt for the people that invested in it, because I felt like I failed them. I just, luck is part of the equation. I lucked out on this one.
I think it's very important for people to hear that we don't always succeed at everything that we do. Failure is a part of this, but it's that willingness to pick yourself up, dust yourself off, and go again. That is a real part of what we do. right? And
It is.
testing out what actually works in the meantime.
So it goes back to, God bless everyone who's on here listening, who's an entrepreneur. I have so much respect for you because you actually took the risk to step into the arena. The famous poem, the speech, "Man in the Arena" from Teddy Roosevelt. You've accepted risk, and a lot of people won't do that. There's a lot of business plans that stay in the ideation phase. They never go to execution because people don't want to make that leap. God bless you for making that leap, and you should be wildly proud of yourself. Now, some things will work out, and others won't. Sometimes timing, just the market is down. You started your startup during or right before, and things didn't work out. But you got to take the risk. What did Wayne Gretzky said? You miss 100% of the shots you never take.
Exactly.
You've taken a shot.
Right.
And you should be wildly proud for that. Now we've got a lot of work ahead of us to continually grow our businesses and get to the level that we've set, the strategy, the goal for our respective organizations.
Yeah, and I should know this fact, but I was going to say somebody shared with me earlier this week that baseball World Series, right? To get to it, it's 160 some odd games, is 162. I don't remember, but most people who make it to the World Series have actually lost 75 games to make it to the World Series. I mean, that's a lot of loss to accept to become a winner potentially at the end of it.
Now the difference is, again, within the talent war, we talked a lot about these 9 foundational attributes. Resiliency is a key one. Yeah. And you can train to be resilient. And of course, I mean, COVID is a perfect example. We want to build this organizational resiliency, not just when we confront constrained environments like COVID, but when we take a product to market and it doesn't work out, is that our people pick themselves up very quickly. They look internal or as a group and say, okay, hey, what did we learn? And how do we iterate as quickly as possible to get to refine the product and get it back out there? Or how do we prepare for the next product launch and make sure that we integrate these lessons learned to increase our probability for success? So we all work through that resiliency process differently, but as you become more resilient, that timeline condenses from a failure happening to you resetting and getting back out there. And that's ultimately what we have to work at as leaders.
I would agree 100%. So how do you effectively scale your business?
This has been hard. We're still doing it. The book has changed the game for us. And I've never written a book before, so this was my first time doing it. We had a lot of fear. You talk about fear because you're putting yourself out there when you write a book. Yeah. And we revised the final manuscript 15 times until somebody said, "You're done. Just put the book out to the market." Additionally, you got to remember, I came from a community, specifically a small community within the SEAL teams, where we didn't have social media accounts. We didn't engage in the digital world. And so my first Facebook account I was told to set one up when I got to the MBA program at the age of 39, because I guess certain information was passed over the Facebook group. And I kept resisting it. So we've had to force ourselves to become smarter about digital marketing and content generation. And we are testing constantly, from LinkedIn live sessions to blog posts, to see which blog posts result in more engagement in order to give our consumers more of what they want, what didn't resonate. And so we're constantly updating our website. We're updating our language. It's not that we don't understand our cultural foundation or our values, but again, we are going to change as much as possible or needed to remain relevant in the market space. So how much time do you spend, with digital marketing? That depends on the industry, it depends on your company. But even when you're bogged down with maybe, manufacturing or production or services, if you're in the service-based industry, you still have to give time to producing content to secure new customers down the line. And it's been I'll tell you what, a steep learning curve. And I've got an amazing media team, which it took time for us to build. And they've taken a lot of weight a lot of things off my plate, and they're doing a wonderful job.
I I can appreciate that. Marketing seems to be a challenge for more than a few companies. You're not alone in that. So it's good that you've built a good media team, and I know that doesn't come overnight either. Um, and I was going to say, so is there something you would have done differently?
Absolutely not. It was my journey. I needed to screw some things up in order to reinforce certain lessons. But the past is the past. All I can do is learn from that. I'm not going to dwell on it. Dwelling on the past just does nothing but waste time, and it doesn't solve problems for the future or provide direction to my team of where we're going. And as a leader, when we've had initiatives fail, whether in marketing or actual providing our service, I take the lead, and I don't come down on my team. I don't come down on anyone. I accept responsibility. I say, hey, it's okay. This is part of the process. And we actually conduct something called an after action review or a debrief.
Yeah.
And we go over what we learned. That's the most important thing a leader can do when things don't go wrong. Don't pass blame. Don't point fingers. Gather the group together and say, okay, hey, it didn't work out. This is life. Yeah, I know it's not from the fact that we cut corners or you guys didn't work your tails off, but what we do now, how we react to that failure and how we learn is going to be an indicator of whether we continue to move forward in the future or not.
That's an invaluable piece of advice, is learning from what happened and that after action report, which I have heard of, even though I've not been in the military. That's great that it gives people also, and that's part of that honoring the whole person, right? It gives people the ability to be able to fail and then set a new direction, right? We tried this, it didn't work. It's not the end of the world. Let's go over here instead, and be able to look at that and assess that as the group or the team to be able to move forward. That transparency, communication, all those things that go into that makes for great leadership and a good team that follows as well.
And when you do that, you're building you're building organizational resiliency when you take the lead like that.
Yes, absolutely. Is there something that's simply a non-negotiable for you?
Yeah, absolutely. Integrity and character.
Excellent.
Integrity and character, without a doubt. I've served for some world-class mentors. If I see anything, it's because I've stood on the shoulders of giants. I'm trying to remember who I just stole that from. Integrity and character were a go no, as we say in the military, a go or a no go criteria. You either have it or you don't. No. And I know we all want to turn our companies into multi-million-dollar companies, if not more, but we're going to do that the right way. How, winning is important. We all want to win, but how you win is as equally as important. If you did something unethical to win, that's going to weigh on your soul. And eventually it's going to come back. Karma will come back to get you. So we know, and we preach within our company, and we actually put our people through leadership development. We practice what we preach. Since Talent Work Group, we do a lot of leadership development design and actual programs. Is if you focus on driving impact, the money will come. If you drive impact and people know you are a character individual or character-based organization, a value-based organization, yeah, you will retain their business and your business will grow. But we're not going to cut corners. We're not going to step on top of anyone in order to get a leg up. We're going to do it the right way.
Invaluable advice. And I was going to say, what is next for you?
So, I can't claim. I don't know why some things happened to me. When I wrote the book, Men's Journal reached out to do a interview on the book, and they did. But we had a conversation about an hour past the actual interview. And I talked about my concept, the everyday warrior. I mean, I'm an everyday warrior, just like a single mom of two who's just slugging it out day to day, and sort of gave them that whole person concept. And then they came back and said, "Hey, would you like to write a recurring column for Men's Journal?" I said, "Absolutely." And then they came back a little later and said, "Hey, we bought Men's Fitness and incorporated it under Men's Journal, but we want to create a new health and wellness lifestyle company." And so That's what I'm working on right now. The name of the company is ATTA, ATTA, like attaboy, attagirl.
Right.
And it's going to be a very different message, more inclusive. It's going to be about the whole person concept, about balancing those three pillars: the physical fitness, your mental fitness, and your spiritual wellness. Um, and so that company will launch in the fall to winter of 2021. That's what we're working on right now. Uh, Dietary supplements, apparel, and grooming. But to kick it off, uh, sort of our launch event is I'm jumping into Mount Everest, skydiving into Mount Everest, jumping into the world's highest drop zone, while also raising money for a very good cause. I'm going to try to raise $1 million for the Special Operations Warrior Foundation, which is dear to my heart because they cover the education for the children of our fallen special operators who gave their lives during the global war on terror and beyond.
So that's great that you mentioned that. That's another pillar that Scale Up Biz, we work with companies that are on purpose and for purpose. So part of teaching people that it's okay to create wealth in the world is, and not just honoring the whole person in the workplace, but being able to give back to make the world a better place as well. So I can so appreciate that you do that. And if you could name the foundation again, just for anybody who had missed that, that would be great.
Yeah, absolutely. The Special Operations Warrior Foundation. And the majority of the money they raise, a good majority, actually goes to the children who have fallen. It's run by a former Major General who's one of the most character individuals, leaders I ever served for in the military. He's a good man, and they do a lot of great work.
That's neat. And so I am sure you will be quite successful on your mission to make that jump on Mount Everest, and we'll be rooting for you. I appreciate the time that you have taken today for those who will be listening to this, and really want to thank you so much, Mike, for this really informative and interesting discussion. So on behalf of our attendees and Scale Up Biz, we really appreciate your candor, your helpful tips, your authenticity about growing a business. And stay tuned for the next Scale Up for Success Summit interview.